To the Imperial War Museum, in fact, at the former RAF Duxford. Conveniently located on the A505 road, right next to junction 10 of the M11, the museum site has been home to Showbus since 1993. The first one was 20 years before that, in 1973, and the event has now grown into the world's biggest bus rally. The airfield site is 1,800 metres long, or just over a mile if you prefer it in English. And it covers an area of more than 200 acres. On Showbus Day, most of the site between the Tank Museum to the west and the Control Tower in the east is used for bus display. The entrance or exhibits arrive from all points of the compass at the western end of the site, from where they proceed to the bus booths and receive directions to their display positions. With more than 450 buses entered for the rally, there's plenty of action roadside. And early arrival is London Heritage Travels RML 2299. To complement the Enviromania double-decker display, an Enviro 300 demonstrator was enlisted to work the site shuttles. Following behind are three of Cozy Travels coaches, a Scania H3110B Irizar, a Volvo engine Plaxton Elite, and a K470EB Irizar. The RM40 bus group brought two entrants to the event, RM40 obviously, and RF538. Buses began arriving at Duxford from around 8 o'clock. A trickle at first, developing into a flood as the morning wore on. Here's a pair of Robinson's Volvo chassis Van Hool coaches from 1991 and then 2004. Bringing up the rear, Stevenson's Scania N94UD, formerly with Reading buses. (2011) is the centenary of Maidstone District, so a wide variety of its buses was compulsory at the Duxford event this year. There'll be more of these later. Following the M&Ds, Galleon Travels Tri-Axle Boven Magic, Princess Isla. This 1980 Dennis Dominator, now privately owned, began life with Leicester Corporation and eventually became a driver trainer for First Group in Leicester. Slightly more mature, 62-year-old Leyland Titan OPD2 number L453, usually based at the Canvey Island Transport Museum. Next, the 712 Preservation Group's Bristol Low Decker. Registered as KBD 712D, the bus was delivered new to United Counties in 1966. "44 years junior to the low decker is Thamesdown's Optare Versa, number 408. This one also carries a name, King George IV. Stephen Wood's Regent 5, number 69, and Routemaster 1699 head for the site. A Reading Buses Enviro 400 Hybrid follows. On the railway, this one would be said to be clagging nicely. RT2688, owned by the group of the same name. The 23 group laid on special destination blinds for its two MCW Metro buses, 2618 and 3065. A trio of Barker bus coaches, a Mercedes-Benz 0303 coach, G39YJA, part of the company's heritage fleet, closely followed by a tri-axle Bedford VAL 70. And MCW Metro liner MIW 8529. They are followed in by an East Yorks B and RLE Wright bus. The Bristol Omnibus Vehicle Collection sent this pair of Bristol MW6G ECWs, numbers 2150 and 2138. Route Masters on the march, led by Harry Hobson's RM822. Next in line, RML 2613, owned by the group of the same name. A little further back is the 1000th Route Master, now owned by the RM1000 Preservation Group. Staying with the London theme, but coming right up to date, this is MCV's B9 chassis VM1, currently being trialled with Go Ahead in East London. Arriva's number 3888, a brand new Volvo B7 RLE Wright bus. Two more golden oldies, RM848 and an RML. RM1403 has had the upper deck haircut and now travels with a tarpaulin in case of rain. The Uno company sent along a pair of Scanias, Omnicity N94UB, SNC 352 and an Optare bodied N230UD. To add to the variety, Stagecoach sent an engineer's van up from Leighton, along with Omnicity 1525 and the very first ALX 400, TA1. Obviously off to the pub, a 1957 Leyland Tiger Cub, Northwestern number 696. The next trio comprises RM577, Stagecoach's 12-metre, 110-seater, triaxle mega-decker 14,000, oh, even saying all that makes me feel tired, and a Stagecoach Enviro 400. And now a Wayman-bodied Regent, built for Lisbon in Portugal in 1954, a complete mirror image of the regular RT. Always liable to cause interest, Titan PD2 number 243, branded as Trotter's Ethnic Tours. Lovely jubbly, but maybe not one for the purists. Trent liveried Bristol VRT SL3 number 837 heads this trio. Then it's Webb's Coaches Toyota Optimo Caetano and Atlantean 270 in Hull Corporation livery. On Duxford days, the M11 becomes a busway, but not guided, obviously. Another Bristol VRT SL3, CNC Historic Southdown number 266, still under restoration, completes its stint on the motorway. a Regent and a Regal, RT4317 and RF4. A Reva's top-cropped RMC 1464 is followed by a Mercedes Sprinter and a King Long, both belonging to Cedar coaches. A Bristol LH preserved by the Colne Estuary Group. A Bedford VAM5 with duple coachwork. One of Richmond's Van Hools. Flagstone's Dennis Dart duple heads Bristol Low Decker 2378, owned by Mick Rolly. Brighton and Hove Mercedes Arctic, number 103. A 1952 Bristol LWL 6B, number 616. This is National Holidays liveried Leyland Tiger duple, and it's followed by Metrobus 2957 in West Midlands Time Saver colours. Former London Leyland Titan T130 is followed by Bristol RE number 869 in Eastern Counties colours. United Counties 862, another Bristol LWL 6B. A 1981 Volvo B58 Plaxton, owned by Grove Coaches. Mott's Travels Optare Solo, with the registration MB07 Bus. Followed by a Stagecoach Enviro 400 15608. 1945 built Bristol K6A number 446 in Thames Valley livery, and a VDL Jonquière triaxle coach from Masons. Stagecoach's Optare Solo 47295 now has jumbo size air conditioning on the roof. Lever's Volvo B12M Plaxton Paragon NJ53AAF. First Student's School Bus 68665 is a BMC 1100 finished in the American style. A lovely Leyland Tiger from 1947, CFN 104 in East Kent colours. It's followed in by a pair of Van Hools from Chalfont Coaches. Rambler's Volvo B10M with Van Hool Elise bodywork was new in 1999. Southern Vectis sent this 1993 Northern Counties bodied Volvo B10B. EvoBus brought along a Mercedes OC500 Turo and a Citra S416. But our final shot from the roadside is a blast from London's past, an AEC Merlin MB641. Another Showbus attraction is the sales stand area in front of the hangars, with a liberal sprinkling of buses in the mix as well. This stand has a great selection of enamel signs, both bus and underground related. This vast stand was selling model buses. There were around 70 stands in total, selling all manner of items.
No, because obviously the airport was closed this morning.
Showbus is also a great place to meet up with old friends you haven't seen for a while and exchange pleasantries like, "My God, you're still alive." There's also plenty of places to buy food and drink. Showbus 2011 was also the day Visions launched its first bus products. Our friends at Stagecoach very kindly provided us with 19819, the 1000th Enviro 400 double-decker built for London, which was quite handy in itself as we were releasing an Enviro 400 DVD. Next year, bigger stand, smaller bus. A few buses either arrived the day before or very early on the morning of the event and sneaked in through the guardhouse gate. This is Guy Arab 2548 standing outside the American Air Museum. Ensign Bus provided this open-top metro to serve as an operations hut for the Showbus organisers. Just behind it, the Stagecoach Enviro that we arranged to get in early. This Neoplan Skyliner arrived the day before. Successfully manoeuvring 400 buses onto the site and laying out the display is obviously a major operation. After arriving through the west gate, buses run down the taxiway and filter into 3 lanes, depending on their pitch number. At the end of the lanes, they reach the bus booths. Each bus can bring in 3 passengers free of charge. Any extras have to pay, and the booths are where the Showbus team collect the fares, as it were. A Birmingham City Transport Daimler Fleet line with Marshall body makes its way down the lanes and meets up with the first arrival, an Irizar coach. A Bristol Mercedes 709D, owned by the Bristol Vintage Bus Group, appears through the entrance gate. Another Bristol VRT SL3 in Maidstone and District livery, one of 3 to attend the event. You can probably work out the number of this one for yourself. After passing the booths, the bus heads for its pitch outside the American Air Museum. Before they reached the lane section, drivers were stopped and given a goodie bag containing a welcome letter, a can of drink and a Cadbury's double-decker. This 1973 Leyland National is in Leyland demonstrator livery. We saw this one on the road earlier, Bristol Low-Decker KBD 712D. It lasted in service until 1981 and was operating in Luton when withdrawn and preserved immediately.
Lining up the display, there's a manufacturer's display opposite the...
Teams of stewards manned each lane to check paperwork and gave drivers directions on where to park. Leyland Atlantean LA697 in Greater Glasgow PTE livery is followed by the Brandon Bus Preservation Groups RML 2419 and RF 113. This is a central London version of the Leyland National, the LS class, number 24 to be precise. First livery to Leyland Olympian 34814 and a Bristol VRT SL3 in Wiltshire Dorset colours, number 4448, arrived simultaneously. No surprise, as they're both owned by the Colne Estuary Group. This field will soon be full of buses. The Brooklands Museum sent along its BOAC liveried Leyland Atlantean. The driver of the unusual right-bodied Bedford, A858 OVJ, gets a little impatient and drives around the BOAC bus. FAH275Y, a Volvo B10M61 Plaxton Supreme, approaches the goodie bag stop.
He goes in the far right lane.
For the benefit of visitors, Andrew Jarosh gave a running commentary on the arrivals. As the arrivals begin to come thick and fast, the Reading Enviro 400 Hybrid clears customs and heads for its place in the Enviromania display.
7 is another Eastern National Bristol VR with an ECW coachwork, and this one's wearing...
By about 10:30, there were literally buses everywhere. So sit back and enjoy the procession without having to drive all the way to Cambridgeshire.
Yeah, they're all together.
Celebrating their 50th anniversary at stage Showbus.
This one is worth a special mention, the 1934 Albion PV70 Harrington, owned by the Farrell family and complete with shark fin to help it go faster. Most of the Maidstone buses are now in place. Flying the flags is this 1966 Leyland Panther Row, running as Hull Corporation's number 180. Nottingham City Transport provided this Scania Omnidecker.
Leyland National 2.
Lodge Coaches brought this magnificent array to the event, led by 1950 open-sided Bedford LTA 752.
But this time it's got the Leyland style bodywork after the ECW.
That was followed by TMY 700, a closed-sided Bedford OB duple. MJB 481 is a 1956 Bedford SBG duple. Although Transport for London keeps insisting that buses in its area must be red all over, the practice of applying big adverts continues. Maybe TfL meant advertised all over. This is Metro Line's B7TL President VP580 from Willesden Garage, the latest to promote the G-Star Raw stores. Trendy clothing for young people, in case you were wondering. The guy with the beard is most likely another celebrity you've never heard of. A Wright Eclipse 2-bodied B7RLE and an Enviro 400 represent the new Cambridge busway. The wonder that is RT8 arrives. Beautifully restored by Ensign Bus, this pre-war Regent returned to the road in July 2010 and has been a popular exhibit at rallies and shows ever since.
Thank you.
The field we saw earlier is now filling up nicely.
And the next one is unusual because it's a recently restored leather tiger cub, restored in the purpose. CIO, which was the
We round off this section with a Reaver's Routemaster 6, painted gold in 2002 for the Queen's Golden Jubilee, and recently repainted in similar style. Presumably, it's going to be diamond encrusted when the next Jubilee comes around in 2012.
which is, as you can see, part of the Aruba Heritage Fleet, and it's still wearing gold Jubilee colours, which nothing real.
To celebrate the centenary of Maidstone and District, Showbus decided to stage a parade of its former vehicles on the grass beside the airfield taxiway. Heading the parade, a 1962-built AEC Reliance with a Harrington Cavalier body running as number C28. This bus could carry 37 passengers and has a mid-underfloor mounted AEC engine. It's one of a batch of 10 delivered to M&D in the autumn of 1962. Slightly newer, this 1997 Volvo Olympian Plaxton, number 5929. This one has a capacity of 77 passengers. The bus is now owned by the 2816 Society and carries an advert commemorating the centenary. Next is a 1984 MCW Metrobus 2 5210 with a capacity of 74. This one is preserved by the M&D Preservation Group and was originally ordered when the company was under the National Bus Company banner. M&D bought lots of Bristol VRTs after trialling one in 1975. Heading a trio of them is 5847. These buses have a capacity of 74. Another M&D Preservation Group owned vehicle. Like 5848 in the middle. .5832 completes the trio. This one is owned by Messrs. Rain and Vetch. A 1983 Leyland Olympian 5442 is in Invicta-Way livery. Carrying number 72, this one was bought for the Invicta-Way services from London to the Medway towns. This is a Leyland Leopard PSU 3 with Willowbrook body, number 2816, capable of carrying 49. In the mid-1960s, this type became M&D's single-decker of choice. The Leopard is being tailgated by a 1975 Volvo Ailsa 5385. This one had the biggest capacity at 79 and was one of the vehicles built for the National Bus Company's double-deck trials in 1975. Unfortunately for Volvo, the M&D preferred the Bristol VRTs. Once upon a time, this vehicle was M&D's 5861, another VRT. It left the company in 1983 and had its roof removed 6 years later. A late-running entrant to the parade was the oldest vehicle to appear. The 1937 Leyland Beetle was rebuilt after the Second World War and deployed by the M&D on express services from the Medway towns to London. It's now owned by Thorns Independent Limited and used for charters. The coach has a hot drinks facility and it's fitted with both a PA system and a CD player, so obviously another one for the purist to mutter about. While you enjoy the return fly past, here's some history. Maidstone and District Motor Services Limited was registered by one Walter Flexman French in March 1911. British Electric Traction acquired part of M&D in 1913. New routes were introduced and by 1917 14 were in operation. Tilling Group acquired an interest in the company in 1921. A year later, Maidstone and District became a public company and opened the first bus station in England, sited in Palace Avenue, Maidstone. Between 1928 and 1930, it absorbed a number of smaller companies. The formation of the London Passenger Transport Board in 1933 required M&D to surrender most of its operations in Dartford and Gravesend, along with garages at Dartford and Northfleet. But, undaunted, M&D took over the Hastings Tramway Company in 1935, an acquisition which brought trolley buses into the fleet. Fast forwarding to the post-war years, the Hastings Tramway name disappeared in the late 1950s in favour of M&D, whereupon the parent company decided to abandon the trolley bus system and ordered some of the country's first Leyland Atlanteans as replacements. M&D also bought a number of single-deckers for one-person operation of rural services. Early examples were based on the Albion Nimbus chassis, but AEC Reliances were bought until the mid-1960s, when several batches of Leyland Panthers appeared. At the same time, the Daimler Fleet Line with low-height Northern Counties bodywork succeeded the Leyland Atlantean as the standard double-decker. Maidstone and District became part of the National Bus Company in 1969 and made its first loss in 1971, calling for some rationalisation. A partnership evolved with the East Kent Road Car Company and management of the operation transferred to Canterbury. The company bought several batches of Leyland Leopards for both bus and coach work, as well as ECW-bodied Bristol VRTs. There were also several batches of Leyland Nationals, as there were pretty much nationwide. In 1975, trial batches of the MCW Metropolitan, Volvo Elsa B55 and Bristol VRT entered service at Silver Hill. Needless to say, M&D eventually bought large numbers of the Bristol, but it also took in 2 batches of Metro buses. The history-making Palace Avenue bus station finally closed in 1976, but its booking office building can still be enjoyed today at the Kenton East Sussex Railway. In the early 1980s, expectations of a merger with East Kent began to grow. Vehicles and operations were interchanged, including some M&D Atlanteans swapped for AEC regions, but the same decade also brought a number of depot closures. Express coach services between London, Maidstone and the other Medway towns were rebranded Invictaway in the early 1980s. To enhance these services, several batches of Leyland Olympians with ECW double-deck coach bodies were acquired and painted in a green and white livery. This scheme was later applied to the entire Invictaway fleet. On the 7th of November 1986, the company was bought out by its management, one of the first national bus companies to be privatised. In 1992, Maidstone and District bought Borough Line Maidstone for £950,000 and moved into Borough Line's depot. But in 1994, M&D was taken over by British Bus, which also owned the neighbouring Kentish Bus operation. The Invictaway service was rebranded as Green Line. On the vehicle replacement front, Bristol VRTs made way for Olympians. Coming almost up to date, the Cowie Group acquired British Bus and therefore the M&D operation in 1996. The new livery of green and cream was based on M&D's traditional colours. As we all know, the Cowie Group rebranded itself as Arriva in 1998, at which point the remains of M&D operations became Arriva Kent and Sussex, part of the Arriva Southern Counties holding company. In a final twist, the M&D name has been retained by Arriva to stop competitors using it. Holding Showbus at an airfield has other advantages, like aeroplanes. Classic Wings operates pleasure flights throughout the year from Duxford, and at Showbus deploys 2 planes on circuits of the airfield, so the adventurous can view the buses from a completely different perspective. The 2 planes are Dragon Rapides, each carrying up to 8 people. We thought this was too good an opportunity to miss, so we drew straws to see which of our camera persons would film the action. As well as the Rapides, Classic Wings can also provide the thrill of flying in a World War II T6 Harvard. Alternatively, there's an open-topped Tiger Moth, goggles and flying helmet provided. With the camera guys safely strapped in, Golf Alpha Kilo India Foxtrot taxis off to the runway. These trips include a circuit of the airfield and last about 10 minutes before returning you to terra firma. If you're feeling really flush, you can take a longer trip over Cambridge or London. So, seatbelts fastened, here we go. After takeoff, the plane turns north and then flies eastward around the back of the airfield. Then, after a turn south and west, it treats passengers to a flyby of the site along the full length of the runway. After taking to the sky with our cameras, we can probably claim to have shown every single bus at this year's events in the DVD. The Rapide turns south and then to the east end of the airfield to land. The pilot lines up the plane for a landing on the grass. Right, that's more than enough differential pressure between aerodynamic surfaces. Back to the buses. Between 11:45 and 4:15, Showbus visitors can enjoy a free tour from the site to the local village of Duxford. The tours run every 15 minutes and feature a variety of buses. They begin next to Showbus Control before leaving the War Museum site through the guardroom gate onto the A505. After running round the M11 roundabout, they turn right towards Duxford Village and make a land-based circuit which takes them back onto the A505 near Whittlesford Station before returning to the airfield. When demand is heavy, more than one bus is travelling the circuit at any one time. Here, for instance, we have Crossley DD42-6 2489 leading two different styles of Bristol MW6Gs with ECW bodies, 1965 built 2138 and 2150 from 1966. I don't know, you wait ages for a bus, then three come along at once. Ensign Bus's Bristol LS number 206 was a late entry to the show, but the organisers were more than pleased to shove it out on a few runs around the village. Viewers of a certain age will be experiencing extreme nostalgia right now. The next one along is Lodge's Bedford SBG Duple. After pausing outside the Plough pub, it continues its trip. Was that a toilet stop by any chance? Hugely authentic if it was. Arriving back on site at the guardroom gate is Chesterfield 123 Preservation's Daimler Fleet Line. After delivering its passengers back to the Showbus Control bus stop, the Fleet Line resumes its place with the other exhibits. The newest bus on the village tours was Red Rose's Enviro 200 KX09 ACU. The bus is named Chris Day, after the former co-owner of Red Rose, who died earlier in 2011. Red Rose began in 1992 as a one minibus operation in Aylesbury. It now operates 27 routes in and around Buckinghamshire. During this year's Showbus, the Reverend Nick Maloney formally blessed the bus. Of slightly older vintage than the Enviro 200, RML 2544 taking a spin through the village. Bristol RE SBF 896G was delivered new to Eastern Counties in 1969. It's now owned by Charles White. Another shot of the Routemaster, turning back onto the A505. And at the furthest point from the show site, the temporary bus stop near the station. The lovely Bristol LS sails serenely past. Time now to take a closer look at the displays and exhibits. First, the lineup of ADL buses in the Enviromania display. Just a small selection of the innumerable liveries you can find on them nationwide. And here's the Enviro 200s. The one and only Enviro 300 on site, operated as the shuttle bus. Here it's passing behind the hangars on its way to the car park. Whatever your interest in the wonderful world of buses, there was truly something for everyone at the show. This shot is a good illustration of how many different eras were featured. A pair of Optaires took up residency outside the excellent Joe's Cafe. The buses providing the village tours were parked between two of the hangars to allow easier movement to and from the starting point. The Bedford VAL 70 we saw out on the road earlier. So far we've seen lots of buses, but there was an impressive range of coaches on site too. This is the Bedford CF Plaxton Mini Supreme. For sale apparently. This coach in National Express colours is a Plaxton body Bristol LH6L. Two versions of the AEC Reliance with Harrington body. On the left, AFJ 86B, on the right, 467 GFR. A late arrival sneaks in, York Pullman's Volvo B12B Plaxton Panther. Very nice colour scheme. K125BUD has been partially open-topped and had rear windows removed. The Shanklin it mentions is on the Isle of Wight. The Brighton Bendy shows off its suppleness. Two of Arriva's B7 RLE Wright bus Eclipses, 3882 and 3888. With plenty of awards to compete for, extra effort was put into making the buses look their best. Stagecoach's Monster Mega Decker sits between Leyland Olympian 14951 and ALX 400 17737. This is TGM's Leyland Olympian F639 LMJ. These two looked rather fabulous parked in their alcove. Delane's PD3 number 50 alongside a new Volvo B9TL Wrightbus Gemini, number 150. From left to right, a 1977 Bristol LH 1103, a Bristol VR 3072 in Eastern National colours, Bristol VR 4448 in Wilts and Dorset livery, and a first liveried Leyland Olympian 34815. A pair in Leicester livery, 1965 built AEC Renown 190 and a Metro Scania BR111, number 225. A nice display of Bristol VRT SL3s, Headingham L255, Southdown 266 and Trent 837. A selection of Bristol MW6Gs, United Counties 201, Bristol Greyhounds 2150 and 2138, Eastern National 392 and Crossville CMG 561. A Yates Europa Bedford SB3 shows off its impressive collection of rally badges. AEC Reliance Park Royal WFN 513 sits alongside Bedford SB3 Duple 675 OCV. A pair of coaches from Webbs, Toyota Optimo Caetano 350 and Citra 250 number 450. A Bedford PJK Duple LPY 721W. Two Volvo Van Hoels from Robinsons, a B10M on the left, a B12B on the right. A selection of Eastern Counties Bristols, RESL number RS658, RELH, RE896 and RELL number RE864. This shot of the Bristols was taken after RE896 had nipped off early. A Bristol LWL, United Counties 862. Northampton Transport Daimler CVG 6 number 267 and 2 Titan PD2s, PJB 2F and the Trotters Bus FRJ 234D. Bristol Low Decker DVL 473. On the left, a former London Leyland Titan T358 and a Volvo City Bus G610 BPH. An impressive lineup of 1970s Leyland Nationals. 2 Leyland Olympians in Metrobus colours, 806 and 395. And another, number 47, in Ipswich bus colours. In this section of the display you can enjoy a variety of more modern buses, like Sullivan's Volvo Millennium Viking DEL1, that's the red one in the middle. This is Stagecoach's TA1 from London's Leighton Garage, the very first Alexander ALX 400, several inches wider than the regular ALX 400 apparently, because of all the extra paint applied to it. The Leighton Engineers van we saw earlier parked between Omni City 1525 and TA1. As you might have predicted, the London buses contingent was so big it needed its own field, and needless to say, featured a large number of route masters. But it was also satisfying to see several beautifully restored RTs, especially the green ones, like RT3254, recreating Green Line coach route 726. RT2083 in Country Green was lined up next to Low Height Regent RLH 44. Built in 1952 as a passenger bus for routes with low bridges, this RLH was converted into a mobile uniform store in 1970 and travelled around the country area garages as service vehicle 581J. Routemaster coach 1507, bound for Woking apparently, standing next to Route 73's RM1394. The extended Routemaster celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2011. Here's 3 of the country version, RMLs 2419, 2412 and 2440, each in a slightly different colour combination. 2 Central London RTs, 3251 and 2688. RM254, a prize winner in 2010, shows off its immaculate engine compartment. Arriva supported the show well and sent along a number of route masters, like open-topped RMC 1464. You saw RM6 earlier in the arrival section. This is one of 9 RMs in Arriva's heritage fleet and is normally to be found at Norwood. GS32 is a Guy Vixen or Guy Special, built in 1953, one of 84 that could once be found plying the countryside both north and south of London. But we end the London area section with some RFs. 539 in regular country green, 1952 built RF518, recreating the 208 to Clapton Pond, and RF401 heading for the Chislehurst Caves as a 227. Every year, Showbus hands out awards to the entrants its judges consider are the best buses in a number of categories, both ancient and modern. Here's the 2011 Roll of Honour. Right, well, that's the serious stuff done. So now it's time to indulge the child in all of us. Well, the child in the Visions team, anyway. After we worked out that 19819 was the 1000th Enviro 400 for a London operator, Stagecoach was kind enough to lend it to us for the day. For the day, I had to explain, we weren't allowed to keep it. We knew that the 1000th London Routemaster was also on site, so we couldn't resist the chance to line up both 1000s beside each other for a photo opportunity, as it's called. First, some careful manoeuvring and placement. The routemaster chaps wanted to get home, so as they headed off, we decided to go for a ride and grab some more shots alongside the other stagecoach buses we showed you earlier. The idea was to stage a run past in front of the American Air Museum, but there was so much traffic leaving Showbus that the other three couldn't swim against the tide, so we went to them. And this, possibly the first ever cab ride in a bus, provides a different perspective of the exhibits remaining on site. Our driver, by the way, was Bob Taylor from Bow, a brilliant bloke who knows just about everybody in the professional bus world. And now, some off-road action. Of course, the buses we were trying to reach were as far away from our stand position as they could possibly have been. Right next to the exit gate, in fact. But here they are now, DMS 1426 standing alongside TA1 and the engineer's van. The Scania had already vanished, so the Enviro took its place at the end of the line. The final lineup of a truly memorable day out. See you at Showbus 2012.
Thank you.